Calgary, Janice Brulotte carried her 8-year-old daughter Grace up into the stands, searching for a miracle to make her little girl walk.
I said, you know, honey, we could stay up here because, you know what? I said, Jesus is up here. And she said, no, Mommy. She said, I'd like to go down and see if Benny Hinn could pray for me. I said, are you sure? She said, yes, Mommy.
So with her child in her arms, Janice edged her way down and through the crowd towards the stage. Like many others, it wasn't long before they were intercepted by ministry screeners and told to sit down.
Grace and I moved over to the side. We sat and waited, and Grace asked me if I could help her to try and walk. And that was kind of her faith in action. And so I picked her up and we tried walking back and forth. And that was kind of a hard moment.
We caught up with them as they fled from the arena. Their hopes of a miracle, even a prayer from Pastor Benny, now gone.
They just kept saying if she healed, and like there was such a big like rush, like yeah. And what can I say? You know, she just wanted to pray for us.
It was the same story a week later in Toronto when theologian Justin Peters, who has cerebral palsy, tried to get close to Pastor Benny. Our hidden camera shows Justin being stopped by a screener. Watch as Henry Hinn whispers something to her. Then Justin is told to step aside.
I want people to understand that people that look like I do, that have an obvious disability, are never allowed up on stage. It's always somebody that has some kind of illness that cannot be readily seen. If God is truly healing the sick through Benny Hinn, we should expect to see amputees grow new limbs. We should expect to see the severely mentally retarded restored, but we don't.
At every Benny Hinn crusade, there's a wheelchair section, usually located at the rear, where few miracles ever seem to go. Andrew, the former Hinn security man, says that the sick and disabled are routinely turned away in favor of the apparently able-bodied.
He's bringing people on stage saying they've been healed. He claims that they've been healed. But who has said that they've been healed? Themselves? And Benny says, look, they're healed. How does that happen? Don't you have to go get a medical test to say you've been healed?
Actually, that's a very good question. And over the years, Pastor Benny has had an answer for it. He's claimed that only those healings that are medically verified are broadcast on his television program. He said that many times, like this.
There's 5 stages of our follow-up where we call the doctor and say, were they sick? And then we verify these healings.
She hadn't been able to walk up steps. So we thought we'd put that miracle verification to the test. Last summer, Benny Hinn held services in Toronto, filling the Air Canada Centre 3 times in just 24 hours, declaring dozens of miraculous healings. A few weeks later, the highlights of that Toronto crusade were shown around the world on his TV show.
Dr. Mary, these are the ones you called out with AIDS, Pastor.
My God!
HIV,
You devil of AIDS, come out of him! In the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, you come out of him! You come out! I said come out!
Those miracles included people he proclaimed cured of AIDS.
Fill my cup! That cancer goes in Jesus' name!
Of cervical cancer.
This is Lisa, you called out tonight.
Of diabetes.
Oh, God.
The ministry declined to talk to us on camera, so we set out to track down those healings ourselves. We were independently able to find 4 of the people declared miraculously healed by Benny Hinn in Toronto. Remember, Hinn insists all those healings are medically verified. This woman declined to talk to us. Of the others, it turns out the woman declared cured of cervical cancer didn't have cancer in the first place, but something called mild dysplasia, a change in cell structure that her doctor is monitoring.
In your body.
Since the crusade, this woman's diabetes actually got worse, and she was hospitalized. And according to her latest medical test, the woman in the center still has AIDS. So what really is going on here? Is it mass deception? Mass hypnosis? From his research, Justin Peters believes this.
It's a matter of mind over body. And for a while, you can make yourself believe that you are healed, and you feel better for a little while until the euphoria subsides, a new day dawns, and the symptoms almost always reappear.
In fact, remember those so-called miracles we told you about earlier? Well, it turns out they weren't quite what Pastor Benny said they were either. The Mayo Clinic determined that boxer Evander Holyfield never had a heart condition. He'd been misdiagnosed. Little William's eyesight is still damaged. And according to his family, 3 years later, he hasn't seen a penny from any ministry trust fund. And shortly after I spoke with her, Belva Ventura died of cancer. And when Benny Hinn's crusade in Calgary ended, Janice Brulot carried her daughter Grace back home.
She cried, and she told me she was so disappointed. But at the same time, I have not given up hope. And I will never give up hope in believing that one day she will walk.
As you'll see when we return, what Benny Hinn's ministry may lack in miracles, it more than makes up in money.
He lives and does the best of anything and everything. Money is never an object. He spends on whatever he likes, only the best for him, for Benny.
When Benny Hinn travels to his crusades around the world, it's first class all the way. From the phalanx of bodyguards who secure the path to his motorcade, to the police escort he pays for almost everywhere he goes.
What's all this money good for, my friend? You're not going to take it with you.
To his trademark white suits, his ministry's logo stitched, it is said, with 24-karat gold thread, custom tailored in Beverly Hills for several $1,000s apiece. The man who once asked, where in the scriptures does it say I have to drive a Honda, has Mercedes-Benz taste. In fact, he owns two of them, this convertible and a Mercedes SUV, each of which cost him over $80,000 US. If there's one thing that is certain about Benny Hinn, it's that he hasn't taken a vow of poverty. That's his house up there over my shoulder, overlooking the Pacific Ocean on some of the most expensive residential property in the U.S. According to local building permits, it has more than 7,000 square feet of living space, 7 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms. We've consulted real estate agents, and they tell us that if that house went on the market today, the selling price would be about $10 million. But for Pastor Benny, the house deal gets better. It's an exclusive enclave in California surrounded by security guards on one side and spectacular views of the Pacific Ocean on the other. And because this is officially registered as Hinn's parsonage or church residence, his ministry pays for all of it, including electrical bills and property tax. Add the private jet the ministry leases for him, the presidential hotel suites, the reported 7-figure salary, and a picture emerges of a self-proclaimed spiritual leader with an obvious taste for the material world.